And I am recording. Mm. Hello, hello.
Hello, guys.
Hello.
Feel free
Hello.
to unmute. Hello,
Good
hello.
morning, everyone.
It's almost evening here in Asia Pacific. So, how are the writing exercises so far?
Pretty
Any
good. I'm a
thoughts?
beginner Rome user. I'm just a few weeks in, so it's been good for me to just get my feet wet, entering text into Rome and kind of getting some of the very basics down.
I see. How
Hi,
about the
everyone.
others? Hello.
It's been a lot more intense than I thought it would be. Sort of getting into these writing exercises. It's been good though.
Let me just try to turn off the chime. I forgot how Zoom works.
Hi, Ma'am Lay. Nice to see you again.
It's great being here. Good time.
I see you're here again. You're in our BC3 too.
Yeah, I didn't finish. I didn't finish RBC3. I got stuck with exams and things, so I didn't manage to finish.
So welcome again.
Thank
You're gonna
you.
love it again.
Yes, I will. I'm already loving it again.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hi. This is Boaz here from Singapore. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you well.
Okay, great. How are you guys doing?
We're doing pretty fine. How about the others? How are the writing exercises?
Yeah, just getting into it. This is the first time actually being quite active in the book club. I signed up for 2 and 3 actually, but didn't get a chance to really get into it. So I said this time around I have to do something about it. So I'm glad. Thanks for arranging for this at a more civilized time, if I can say that.
For the other people here, may I please see your faces?
Excuse
I will have
me,
to.
rooster backgrounds po.
Unfortunately, I will have to drop out again in a few minutes. It's in the middle of my workday in Europe, and I just wanted to say hi to everybody and try to maybe set up a third one for the European people that is at a more appropriate time slot for us.
I see. So what will happen in this reading room is basically there will be a reading part, of course, and then what will happen is when you feel that a certain passage is worth discussing, uh, we just discuss it. So it's not necessarily that we have to just read the book, and more so to just connect and just be in a shared space to get that sense of community. Wow, talking is really hard.
You're doing a good job.
Okay.
May I ask how long this is set for? The time constraint?
We scheduled po for sorry. We scheduled
go.
for 90 minutes po. And
90
then,
minutes. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So if you're not listed in the readers in our shared graph po, you might as well add your name in there po.
Yes. If you haven't already, please add your names to the readers in the Rome Research International Reading Room. I should probably add my name too. Wait, just give me a Nettie, you think we should start now? I think we have enough people over here.
Sure. Let me share my screen.
Hey guys, I just want to quickly jump in and take the chance to say it. I'm just probably listen and not read because it's 11 a.m. here and I need to work, but I don't want to miss that. So I'm just listener today. But hi, nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you too.
Nice to meet you too. So is it okay po, the shared screen?
Yes.
So let's start po with Sir Stephen Hewitt po.
I guess that's me.
Yes.
Okay, so you've got the text on the screen. Shall I just get right to it then?
Yes, please.
If you want, maybe I'll do a quick little introduction of me. I'm Canadian, but living in Vienna, Austria. I mean, my interests are pretty varied, but professionally, I've mostly worked for the Canadian Public Service, so lots of different government contracts. And on the side, I'm interested in creative writing. And it's mostly from the creative writing angle and kind of the personal side that I've managed to come to Rome. And so I'm hoping that I can use Rome as a tool to help me with my writing. Okay, that's really it. Let's go with the introduction. Everybody writes, especially in academia. Students write and professors write, and nonfiction writers, who are the third group of people this book is aiming to help, obviously write as well. And writing doesn't necessarily mean papers, articles, or books, but everyday basic writing. We write when we need to remember something, be it an idea, a quote, or an outcome of a study. We write when we want to organize our thoughts and when we want to exchange ideas with others. Students write when they take an exam, but the first thing they do to prepare, even for an oral examination, is to grab a pen and paper. We write down not only those things that we fear we won't remember otherwise, but also the very things we try to memorize. Every intellectual endeavor starts with a note. Writing plays such a central role in learning, studying, and research that it is surprising how little we think about it. If writing is discussed, the focus lies almost always on the few exceptional moments where we write a lengthy piece, a book, an article, or as students, the essays and theses we have to hand in. At first glance, that makes sense. These are the tasks that cause the most anxiety and with which we struggle the longest. Consequently, these written pieces are what most self-help books for academics or study guides focus on, but very few give guidance for the everyday note-taking that takes up the biggest chunk of our writing. I think I'll stop there, and if we want to reflect on those paragraphs, maybe we can jump in, and then I'll pass the torch to the next reader.
Cool.
I guess since there's no discussion yet popping up, I guess we should just go to the next reader.
Well, maybe if I could just say that the thing that jumped out for me from that passage is that I know it's a very short phrase, but it was something that really jumped out at me. It says every intellectual activity begins with writing. I used to, in fact, until I still do, it's an habit that we think that thinking happens in the head now, and I'm learning more and more, especially after I started using Rome to think on paper. It's not something that I naturally do. I tend to think in my head, and then subsequently, once I feel I've organized my thoughts, then begin to start writing. And so when I was reading that introduction there, it was really like a splash of water on my face. It's like every intellectual endeavor begins with writing. And so I'm trying to keep that in mind in my daily work also, just to think more on paper. Yeah.
I agree with that
Yeah, I
so
agree 100%.
wholeheartedly.
Yeah, yeah.
because I'm studying, and every time I think I really understand something and I try and write something about it, I realize I'm so far off point. So yeah, it's a very good and important thing to write.
I guess we should proceed.
Yep.
It's our next reader. I guess, is Hushna here? It seems not. All right. How about Arme? I think I've seen her name here. Nice. We have 16 participants. And there are 2 of Min. Is Arme here? Hello?
Okay, I am trying to find the page where you have the list of readers. For some reason, I can't seem to find it. Where? How do I get to that page?
It's in the Rome reading room. You just have to scroll down a bit.
Ah, okay.
Neti, I think you should go next. It seems that Arme is not
Cool.
being responsive.
So let me proceed. The available books fall roughly into 2 categories. The first teaches the formal requirements, style, structure, or how to quote correctly. And then there are the psychological ones, which teach you how to get it done without mental breakdowns. And before your supervisor or publisher starts refusing to move the deadline once more. What they all have in common, though, is that they start with a blank screen or sheet of paper. But by doing this, they ignore the main part, namely note-taking, failing to understand that improving the organization of all writing makes a difference. They seem to forget that the process of writing starts much earlier than that blank screen, and that the actual writing, like writing down of the argument, is the smallest part of its development. This book aims to fill this gap by showing you how to efficiently turn your thoughts and discoveries into convincing written pieces and build up a treasure of smart and interconnected notes along the way. You can use this pool of notes not only to make writing easier and more fun for yourself, but also to learn for the long run and generate new ideas. But most of all, you can write every day in a way that brings your projects forward. And then writing is not what follows research, learning, or studying. It is the medium of all this work. And maybe that is the reason why we rarely think about this writing, the everyday writing, the note-taking, and the draft making. Life, like breathing, it is vital to what we do. But because we do it constantly, it escapes our attention. But while even the best breathing technique would probably not make much of a difference to our writing, any improvement in the way we organize the everyday writing, how we take notes of what we encounter and what we do with them, will make all the difference for the movement we do face the blank page or screen, or rather not, as those who take smart notes will never have the problem of blank screen again. So let me stop for a second here, and I really like the promise of having a problem of not having a problem of blank screen again. So as an aspiring writer, it's really hard to what do you call that, to fight the struggle of writer's block, and then the insertion point. And then I mean, it's the Zettelkasten is really life changing, because when I started learning about this, I rarely write without the first drop. because my Hatalkasta and what I learned from Serbo in RBC3 becomes my first draft, especially the fleeting notes. So it is really a great po and skill to learn. So that's it po. And then we will move to the next reader po.
Wait, before we proceed, uh, how would you compare writing? I'm asking this to everyone. How would you compare writing, like for the past few days of RBC4, as compared to the usual academic writing we have experienced in all of our life? What is the main difference that you guys have felt? Think that would be very interesting to discuss.
If I could just jump in, personally, the prompt helps me. Often when I sit to write, I'm not exactly sure where to start, and the fact that Bo or this book club, gives that prompt, that theme, that kind of entry point, it kind of erases a little bit of that startup inertia. Like I'm able to kind of get started a little bit easier. So that's one of my observations.
Yeah,
One
I
thing
would
I've,
agree. Sorry.
yeah,
Go ahead, Lee.
sorry, go ahead.
I agree. Sorry. The writing prompts do help. They're asking questions that I wouldn't normally ask myself. We tend to, and I think it helps me personally to realize that the writing flows from who we are and what we are thinking generally, as opposed to being very specific in the output that we are having. So prior to this, I mean, this is really a new experience for me. It was very work product oriented. I'm a lawyer by profession, and so we tend to just focus on the end product itself, and then making that switch into more. I'm trying to move into more academic writing and other kinds of writing. I find that understanding who I am as a person first, and some of the things that may be holding me back is actually quite um, important, because it actually flows. I think I wrote one of the reflection exercises. I tend to self-edit when it comes to something that is not, which is a little bit more personal, or even in my writing generally, is because I'm a little bit wary of criticism or even feedback. Sometimes it's not necessarily something that's negative, but just feedback. You feel as if it may be something personal, because your writing is actually you're bearing who you are on paper. And so that helps with the self-reflection. It helps to crystallize some of these fears, some of these obstacles that are may be there, and then work around it, and see other people's perspectives as well. Yeah, sorry, Lee.
No, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I was going to say something very much along those lines with the self-editing that you said. And that's one thing that I found is I'm much freer to just write some things. And sometimes I write something and it actually surprises me, because I think, where did that come from? And then to just leave it on the page. It's almost like feeling a bit vulnerable. But it's nice to, without judging, without even thinking about it, just get it on the page and leave it there, at least for a moment, and read it and think about it. It's definitely helped me to think differently, at least about what I'm thinking.
Any thoughts from the others?
Yeah, I resonate with the comments. And for me, it's also for me academic writing. I off I think always get stuck with what do you call that term, analysis paralysis, and you're just thinking, and I end I end up being paralyzed, and that sense of dread, it discourages me to. But the writing exercises helped me a lot. Even my thinking process, I just write it down. Just encourage me to just write. it's very rewarding, I think.
Perhaps I can add also something, because when I do academic writing, I usually always ask myself questions as well, but I never give myself the permission to just write. I have those questions written down and then I think about it in my brain, but that's exactly what we just talked about, like thinking occurs when you're writing. And so I usually write the first draft and then I'm completely devastated how stupid the things I wrote down. And then I have to edit again and again and again. But when you immediately give yourself the permission to write things down, it makes it much more easier. And you're not like, oh, what have I written now? It's much easier like this. And I really see the difference between what I wrote before I used Rome and now what I write now. It's a big, big difference.
If I would be allowed to add something, I think most of that dread in writing, as Joshua has mentioned, is really just from the context switching. Because let's say you're creating your manuscript and you have like a rough idea on what the outline is like. Then you go to Google or Google Scholar for the academics, or even a library database, and you search for that thing, like for that specific fact or or source that will somehow validate your ideas or make the writing seem uh what's that
I totally get
what
what
you
you want
feel.
to say. You want to find the facts that give a proof to what you want to write. And that's not how we should do
Yes.
it. We should first like read things, think about them, and then try to find new things out what we have already wrote down as a first draft. But that's totally what I did earlier as well. I would think about it and then find the proofs to what I was thinking. And that's not a good way of thinking, I think.
Yeah, so I feel that then when we do it that way, at least for me, then writing becomes quite laborious. Like it becomes a pain to write, because you feel the moment you put something on paper, it has to be perfect. And now, like what has been said this evening, it's enjoying writing as a process. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just getting moving, getting things down on paper, getting into that flow of writing. And I suppose now with the computer, it should be easier, right? Because it's always easier to delete. Back in the day when we were writing on paper and pen, I mean, I know people still do that, but a lot more people are writing on computers now. But I used to be terrified of putting something on paper because it seemed like, it's harder to erase. But yeah, learning to really enjoy the process of writing and knowing that it's not the final product. There's still a lot more room to make adjustments, to even say, hey, this is not even going where I want it to go, and making that changes as we go along. So I appreciate what he's writing in that segment there, where he talks about. And I've done this before. I mean, this is my common problem, thinking that writing is the outworking of the thinking process, and it's separate from the thinking itself. And so I used to procrastinate. I have my deadlines for my work and things. I would put it off because I feel that the moment I sit down, I have to be able to churn out the finished product at one go. And so now I'm feeling less stressful, like, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I so much of what everybody just said really resonates with me. And one word, I'm sorry, is it Boaz? Am I pronouncing that right?
Yep, it's Boaz. Yes.
Yeah, this idea of wanting to write something perfectly, and it's something that I struggle with, this kind of perfectionism, and maybe underneath all that is like ego. You want to be able to get that fully formed idea down on paper, instead of get that shitty first draft down and then refine the idea. And maybe it speaks to like this vulnerability to take that process. You have to get comfortable with vulnerability, because what you're going to enter first is not going to be perfect, and it's going to need some work. Anyway, it's something that I'm kind of discovering about myself as I go through this whole writing process. Anyway, that's all.
Very interesting discussion happening. Does anyone have any more things to say? I guess we should proceed now to our next reader.
Okay, that will be me. There is another reason that note-taking flies mostly under the radar. We don't experience any immediate negative feedback if we do it badly. But without an immediate experience of failure, there is also not much demand for help. And the publishing market working how it works, there is not much help in supply for this lack of demand either. It is in the panic in front of the blank screen that brings students and academic writers to turn to the bookshelves full of self-help books and writing. Sorry, I'm just laughing because this is so me. A market publishers meet in droves by focusing on how to deal with the horse has already left the barn situation. If we take notes unsystematically, inefficiently, or simply wrong, we might not even realize it until we are in the midst of a deadline panic and wonder why there always seems to be a few who get a lot of good writing done and still have time for coffee every time we ask them. And even then, it is more likely that some form of rationalization will cloud the view of the actual reason, which is most likely the difference between good and bad note-taking. Some people are just like that. Writing has to be difficult. The struggle is part of the deal, are just a few of the mantras that keep too many from inquiring what exactly distinguishes successful writing strategies from less successful ones. And that is so true. I mean, it's crazy. All right, I'll continue for one more paragraph. The right question is, what can we do differently in the weeks, months, or even years before we face the blank page that will get us into the best possible position to write a great paper easily? Very few people struggle with their papers because they don't know how to cite correctly or because they suffer from a psychological issue that keeps them from writing. Few struggle to text their friends or write emails. The rules of citation can be looked up, and there is no way that there are as many mental issues as papers postponed. Most people struggle for much more mundane reasons, and one is the myth of the blank page itself. They struggle because they believe, as they are made to believe, that writing starts with a blank page. If you believe that you have indeed nothing at hand to fill it, you have a very good reason to panic. Just having it all in your head is not enough, as getting it down on paper is the hard bit. That is why good, productive writing is based on good note-taking. Getting something that is already written into another written piece is incomparably easier than assembling everything in your mind and then trying to retrieve it from there. It's, yeah, crazy good. I'll pass it on to the next person.
Well, if I would just like to start a discussion, I think that the last paragraph, I feel like school should have not should have taught us that writing should not start with a blank page. I think that's one of like the biggest myths, I guess, or yeah, biggest myths and biggest misconceptions that we have as students and even as people when we're trying to just start writing.
I agree. Because I'm writing thesis now and I'm having a hard time writing it from the top down. I need to figure out the hypothesis, and then I need to write the introduction. It's supposed to be written in the end, the introduction, because it's supposed to be the summary of the research done in the whole process, but it's top down level, and I'm guessing it's way more effective if it's bottom up. So I'm I'm excited to know whether there is school or university existing anywhere in the world that is implementing this kind of research or subtlecast, and it's really intriguing po.
Imagine creating the literature review that must be hell. I
Cool.
very yeah. I can't imagine a world where I would do a literature review without approaching it from the bottom up. Now that I have been part of this community for like over a year. So yeah.
You're really lucky because you're only starting your thesis, but we're in the end zone, kumbaga. In college, so we're graduating, and I mean it's too late for us. So I don't know. I want to start from the bottom, but it's hard. It's hard to start from the start because
The sunk cost. Yes.
yes.
It's difficult to rewire the way that we are thinking. And I think that, but it's good. You know, any place that you start is still a good place to be, right? Because at least you're making a change and things will be different from the previous year. I think one of the scary bits is if we go through and there's no changes that come up. And what I'm looking forward to actually in this whole process is really learning how to connect the notes, because I think, you know, a lot of we know how to, in a sense, collect notes, not in the way that the book is talking about, but I have a whole collection of notes, whether it's in my personal reading or my professional reading, and but you know, nothing comes up in a coherent way, and being able to join it together, and then having done that reading the first time around and then going back into the notes and then trying to you know, go through all your notes again and trying to find information, it's just very painful. And then you have all these notebooks and files and folders, and you know, it's so hard to get things back, and you think, wow, what a waste of time, right? Because you've read and then you're still relying on your memory. Oh, I think I've read this somewhere, and then you put it in, and so you know, in a way, it sort of links to what I'm experiencing now, even with Roam. The difference between Roam mobile and Roam on the desktop, because I can get a lot of stuff in Roam on the mobile on the desktop, but I can't access Roam on my mobile. So I tweeted the other day, and I said, you know, and I was thinking the other day, it's not good enough for you to get things in. You got to be able to get it out. The value of you know, whatever we have, right? It's not just about putting it into the system, but being able to pull it out of the system when you need it. And I think this is where we are headed in that direction, where we find a way to pull things into when we need it. Yeah.
Exactly. I guess we should proceed.
Yeah.
Does anybody want to add anything? Okay. Let's go to our next reader. Michael is not here. How about as well
Well,
as
actually, I can read, although my name, I still can't find the page for for some reason. I'm so sorry. But if you can put my name and I'll just read the next paragraph. So,
I will add you po.
right, thank you. Okay, so
right?
the next paragraph, right, with that in mind, uh, that's where we're start. Okay, to sum it up, to sum it up, the quality of a paper and the ease with which it is written depends more than anything on what you've done in writing before you even made a decision on the topic. But if that is true, and I wholeheartedly believe it is, and the key to successful writing lies in the preparation, It also means that the vast majority of self-help books and study guides can only help you to close the barn door correctly and according to official rules, not just a moment, but many months after the horse has already escaped. I'll just read one more paragraph, then we can pause. With that in mind, it is not surprising that the single most important indicator of academic success is not to be found in people's heads, but in the way they do their everyday work. In fact, there is no measurable correlation between a high IQ and academic success, at least not north of 120. Yes, a certain intellectual capacity helps to get into academia, and if you struggle severely with an IQ test, it is likely that you will struggle to solve academic problems too. But once you're in, a superior IQ will neither help you to distinguish yourself nor protect you from failure. What does make a significant difference along the whole intelligence spectrum is something else. How much self discipline or self control one uses to approach the task at hand. Right? Do we want to stop here? And if anyone has any comments?
Seems not really. Not yet.
Yeah, I think it's just more of a commentary on or comment on what happens in the academic circles. So maybe we can move along and then see what we have here. Okay, so the last paragraph. Luckily, this is not the whole story. We know today that self-control and self-discipline have much more to do with our environment than with ourselves. And the environment can be changed. Yay. Nobody needs willpower not to eat a chocolate bar when isn't one around, and nobody needs willpower to do something they wanted to do anyway. Every task that is interesting, meaningful, and well defined will be done because there is no conflict between long and short term interests. Having a meaningful and well defined task beats willpower every time. Not having willpower, but not having to use willpower indicates that you have set yourself up for success. This is where the organization of writing and note taking comes into play. Wow. Okay. So this one has a lot of interesting food for thought here. Any thoughts here?
I think for me, the main takeaway here is that if you are not interested in your task, no amount of motivation is going to keep you doing it. So you need to define your task better and get it to really something that interests you, which speaks to me quite a bit because I'm busy trying to find a topic for my master's thesis, and I had set myself on a specific topic, and it just isn't working. I'm just not really interested in it. And so this has actually been aha for me right this moment, because I'm thinking I need a different topic. I need to change track. It's, yeah. Glad this came along.
So I think what he's saying here, yeah, it's really the truth, because if we have a good structure and a good workflow, it really makes it easier to get into what we're doing. I think that the term that's used nowadays is the least friction there is, the better. And I think, um, yeah, that's basically it. I find it's a lot more easier for me to write because Rome makes it easier to write. And I think there are some jokes about this, where we find it's harder to get out of Rome now, and we have to pull ourselves away because it's just so fun just being in there in that daily page, and it doesn't matter, as long as a thought pops in, it's so easy to connect it with other areas of that you're working on, but you're just in your daily page and you just whatever comes in and you just write it, and you can find it when you need it, right? And I think that structure and also I'm not sure how you're working your structure in your room graph, but I've really been blessed by room 42. The smart blocks really increases the user experience for room lah. And really been enjoying that as well. Really very useful. If you haven't tried it yet, then I really recommend looking up Room 42 smart blocks. It does make that workflow and that structure a little bit more. You can sort of adjust it to your own preference. Yeah.
Before we proceed to reading, if anyone wants to be added to the list of readers in this call, please just chat it so that Nettie can add you to the reading list. Otherwise, you can just sit back and uh, enjoy the very cozy environment that we have created. So, so I'm guessing. Well, before that, I would just like to ask, how did you stumble into Rome? So, like, how did you find out about Rome research? I would just like to ask.
I can jump in. Personally, for me, it was through another Slack community that I'm a part of. And in that Slack community, RBC3 member was also part of that community. I think his name is Eshan, and he's in Germany. And so he had posted in a thread in this other kind of more tech entrepreneurship community that he had participated in RBC3. And I don't know, there was something about his enthusiasm, one, but whatever one line summary of his experience or like that really intrigued me. And so I immediately checked it out. And I have to say that as soon as I looked at Rome, I had this immediate sense of like this kind of light bulb moment. I was immediately excited about it. And that was about 3 weeks ago exactly now. And I have to say that that excitement level hasn't really dipped. I'm still equally excited and intrigued by the community and by the tool itself.
I discovered it, I think like a month or so before, back then in 2020, when they stopped everything and they said waiting list and whatever. So I got in before that. And it was really, for me, I don't know how, I know it was a YouTube video that I clicked on because it was about note taking. And I was interested about that back then. So because I had to figure out my thesis and everything. So I watched those videos. And I don't know, I don't really remember which kind of video it was, but they talked about it. And it was like, that's exactly what I look for, because with studying abroad and having everything here and there and everywhere. And then I was like, I need something where I have centralized everything, where I can write in everything that I have. And so now I have been using it for over a year. And I would say, apart from a few days that I took like intentionally off from studying and from doing anything, I would say I use it every day, and my graph, it's just exploding. It's like way over 6,000 notes at this point. And so I really, really enjoy it, but I'm not doing it the way Bo is doing it. Not at all. Mine is like kind of a Wikipedia style, where I link between different concepts. And when I read something about something, I always add and add and add. And it's, for me, it's like the perfect tool to really find out, oh, where did I read about that? And where did I find that? And so it's really good.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow, I have such microphone problems with every single Zoom we've had. I've found Rome on Twitter, and people like Matt and Bo and Rome Hacker and Conan and all those guys. Because I've got a really broad Twitter feed, I just started catching the hints of Rome late last year. And so I started chasing them up and following a few more people and thought about it. And the Zettelcast and stuff I thought, that's how I think. That sounds like how I think. God, that's really interesting. And then I thought, I took the step and I asked, and they gave me a scholarship. Bless them. So I got it, and then I had to do it on my iPad mini, because my desktop computer wouldn't work. You try doing early Rome on an iPad mini with doesn't even have a tab. You're really struggling, but I did it, and just kept going on through. But I'd only been doing it for like 3 or 4 weeks, and suddenly Book Club 3 came along with Bo, as all of us know what that means now. And so I joined that, and so I was learning Rome and doing Book Club 3 at the same time. That was exciting. And then my technology failed me, so I had these gaps in the early part of Book Club 3. So I'm going back through Book Club 4 now to fill those gaps in and get a handle on the Zettelcast. But I'm also doing the other one. I'm doing the Braiding Sweetgrass book club as well. So I'm busy. But it was Twitter. It was Twitter where I found Rome. It was just the toing and froing.
I had a friend of mine introduce me to Rome in November last year, or showed it to me briefly, and then it exploded. I've been trying probably every note-taking tool on earth, and none of them really fit me because of structure. As I learned, I'm like HDD, and Rome is the tool that has been with me now for every single day since forever, or since then, and it's growing, and it works the way I think, or I try to think, and it's been amazing, basically.
For me, last year, August, I was struggling with my requirements back then. And I stumbled upon a YouTube video by Thomas Frank. And that's the beginning of I used from there. I used Rome a lot. I was specifically looking for task management tool, but Rome is it's beyond that. So thank you for Thomas Frank.
Yeah, same here. I stumbled upon Rome through the YouTube algorithm. I'm, you can say, cripplingly addicted to YouTube, because that's like my only source of entertainment. So when I saw that video by Thomas Frank, I immediately fell in love with Rome. It was like love at first sight. Not that I have a girlfriend or anything. So it was that. But I would like to ask, is anyone here uh, experience using Rome on and off, like not being consistent? Because for a majority of my Rome scholarship, I guess like for the past 6 months, I was not really using Rome, because there was this feeling that things are not feeling right. Like my gut feeling is just saying that maybe this is not right for me. Basically, I found no way of using Rome, even after the many videos and tutorials and Twitter, emails, newsletters that I have consumed for those past few months. Then RBC 3 came along, and now you guys are seeing me right now with Nettie, who I have never met, before in my life, and uh, and yeah, just magic, the magic of this tool. So has anyone also experienced my case, like using Roam on and off? That
Yeah, I think for me it was actually at the beginning because I came to Rome through YouTube. I was looking for note-taking instruction videos, especially for my son, who's going into junior college and thinking about things that we could sort of watch together and for him to learn. And then I think it was Ali Abdal who had some videos on Notion. So I actually started off on Notion first, and I think it was Thomas Frank, if I'm not mistaken, who in one of the feeds or maybe even in his YouTube channel mentioned about Rome. And so I signed up for Rome as well, and this was in December 2019, and I had Notion at the same time. And then at first I found Rome too plain. It was just too simple. And so I was using Notion first. And then after a while, I found myself going back a little bit more to Rome, less on Notion. And then the next few days, I'll still be in Rome and then less on Notion because Notion was just too pretty. It's just too much structure. And I ended up spending a lot of time building the structure in Notion, all the tables and the graph, the pictures and all these kind of things. And then I found that actually the simplicity of Rome was there. And then I started moving more to Rome. And I think it was like early this year, I just discontinued my Notion subscription.
Same here.
But so I think it was the early part. I just didn't get used to about the fact that it was just too simple, and but then it was the simplicity that actually drew me to a Notion, and now with, like I said, with some of the CSS and the JavaScript add-ons, it has really enlarged the experience, and like I think so many of us here, we find it's just easy just to let our minds wander. I'm 1 minute I'm doing my work and I'm writing it. Now I don't even leave room for I don't use Word documents much. I do a lot of my writing in Rome, whether it's personal stuff, and then I just copy and paste into my Word documents. And I find it so much easier for my brain that's always jumping all around. So yeah.
Well, I also came to Rome through, I think it was Twitter, where I saw it the first time, but I had no idea. I've never used a note-taking app ever. I'm a pen and paper kind of person. I have books and books of notes that I never look at. I never can find anything. And also have the monkey brain syndrome. So Joshua, I'm right with you. And I have no clue. And I have been on and off using Rome as well, because I have no idea where to start. And I have fear that if it's not perfect, it's not going to work. And so I just didn't use it. And I'm stuck. If I'm totally honest, I'm just stuck. So I'm really happy. I don't even know what CSS is and JS or whatever. I have no idea what any of these things are. People talk about add-ons and Rome Hacker. I have no idea. So unfortunately, I just have to use it as it comes. And if anything is in there, and then I go to my graph and I push semicolon, semicolon, and nothing comes up because nothing's programmed into it. So I'm stuck. That's probably why I stopped using it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to learning all of that now.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly why I dropped out of Rome Book Club 3 and 2, because I thought I needed to spend some time figuring out what is all these. Prior to coming to Rome, I didn't know what was JavaScript or CSS. I didn't know you could do all this stuff. And I just, I think my wife was thinking I'm kind of strange, just sitting in the room watching videos after videos, trying to figure out what all of this is happening. I think I'm beginning to understand a little bit, but I realized with the CSS, You don't have to get it too complicated. There are just one or two things which I found were useful, and I let go of the rest of it. Yeah, I found in the end, I took a page out of Connor's posting that he hardly uses any of this other stuff. And I thought, yeah, that's true. I mean, there are some things that really enhance the experience, but if you're not careful, you get carried away by trying to make your graph and your daily page just look very pretty, and it doesn't really add on to it.
It was one of the things that that Notion was. You ended up rearranging the pages no end and didn't get anything done. When I started Rome, I also got into the whole Zettelkasten thing, and I've been reading Sonke's book. I've taken like 2,700 words notes on my first reading of it. It was mind blowing. Wish I could go back to university and apply what I learned there, and I'm really looking forward to sort of going through it again, but deeper now with Bo's concept. I saw his video with Robert Hatesfield, and it was like, whoa, what is this guy doing? This looks weird, and I tried to emulate it, and it didn't feel right. So, and I'm really into seeing how this can be applied now. That's my motivation for this thing here. And I know I'm a software developer. I know about CSS, JS, and whatnot. And I've customized my graph a bit, but I'm finding that I don't use it too much. It's the Rome hacker template or the Rome 42 templates, yes, and a little bit of CSS, but I'm trying to keep it as clean as simple as possible.
A lot of the really people more advanced than I am, put it that way. I saw at a meeting the other day, and they were calling a lot of those things the shiny things. Oh, look, there's a shiny thing, that CSS or that bit of JS script, and they're all just leaving them behind. They've been using them, and now they're stopping using them. And one of them said he was actually unsubscribing to various newsletters and updates that he had been subscribed to, and was going back to what they were calling native Rome, which I found really interesting, because I was thinking, how much do I need to get into it? Unfortunately, I'd been avoiding it because I knew I didn't have the basics at a sufficiently good level to really do it. And people, a handy little bit of CSS stuff will come your way, and it'll go, oh yeah, that makes that clearer. And you just use that one, it may be just one symbol, and it makes something stick out the way you want it to. But you don't have to learn CSS, and you don't have to buy into all the really exciting stuff unless it's really useful to you. I was really pleased to hear so many of them saying they're giving up on being distracted by the shiny things.
Yeah, I found that it was actually a means for me to avoid writing.
Yeah.
You start playing around, it gives you the sense that you're doing something, but it's just another distraction from actually doing the hard work, which is the thinking and the writing. But I did find that one CSS that really helps is the one that connects. It draws a little line that connects the different levels that you're at. And that I find really helps me, because no matter where I am in the graph, I can see exactly on the page, I can see exactly at which indent I'm in, and that really helps. Apart from that, yeah, I don't really use much of the CSS already. I think the phrase is vanilla Rome. You get back to vanilla Rome.
The thing is, it's sort of thinking about it, and also coming from a long history of working with productivity tools and software and so on. The abstraction that Rome has with the block as the point that can be referenced, and so that is so powerful. You don't really need anything else. This is the secret sauce, and getting that abstraction that good is what makes all of this possible. It's like Excel sparked a lot of things, and simple tools that have one abstraction really well done can make a lot of difference, and everything on top is is icing, but when the abstraction doesn't work quite the way, and for many of the other note-taking tools like Notion or so, or Evernote, or the abstraction just didn't go far enough. But here with Rome, it feels like it's the first time that somebody has cracked all of the ideas that that have been formulated it back in a century ago with the Memex or Xanadu, Ted Nelson's hypertext, so on. For those that are into that kind of geekery, the ideas have been around, but there was never a way to actually implement it in technology. And the World Wide Web was sort of almost there, but didn't go far enough. And still the abstraction that the web has led to a lot of incredible progress, but it sort of stopped short. It didn't do the backlinking, and that's what Rome is doing really well.
Perhaps I can say that after a year, the only thing that I've installed, I don't even know if it's CSS or whatever, it's the PDF reading thingy where you can highlight and it immediately makes like new blocks of what you have highlighted. That's all I've done to my graph, and it's full, and I use it daily because I really, how to say it, it gives me something back. It's not like, oh, I have written down every day, open Rome and do something. No, it's every day. There is the urge at one point when I have something that I'm thinking about, or when oh wait, I have something similar to that. I've read about that already. So I have the urge to open it and look it up. It's always open in my tab, always. So it's just like the World Wide Web. It's my own thing that every day I need to consult at one point because there's something that I was like, oh wait, I already did something about that. But that took around like 3 months. Until then, it was just like the sheer joy of having something where I can put all my knowledge into. And after that, it was that it gave something back. And I think that is perhaps the biggest problem if you do not have something that you're completely like joyous about, which was also written in the book. Like, you know, when you don't have something that you really want to do something about and learn something about, you do not have this intrinsic motivation to put something more into it. And it took a long time for me to really get something out. But from that day on, it was like, it's constantly open, constantly. And as soon as I have something new, I will jot it down. And I'm so happy because in 2 months' time, I know I will look it up again. And I am that kind of a person that I even remember when I had like those notebooks where I wrote down everything. Oh, it's written like on that notebook that has like lines, or no, that was the one with the dots and it's on the left page on the top. And it made me crazy to know I wrote something about it, and either that book is now in another country because I study in another country and I can't go back, or it is like somewhere in my bookshelf and I do not want to stand up and look it up again. And it made me crazy. And so this joyous motivation in the beginning to finally have something that I just need the internet for, to open it up and find immediately what I want to do. This was what drove me in the beginning. And at the point where it was giving something back, I'm now totally happy. And it is not beautiful. Like when I look up like videos what people do with their Rome graphs, I'm like, I don't know what they're doing because I'm not into that. I'm not a techie girl. So whatever. The simple white page is more than enough for me. So no worries to all those worrying. Just don't worry. It's totally fine without all those CSS and whatever extensions. You don't need them.
Exactly.
That's really great feedback.
Exactly, because at the end of the day, you know, it's the if it helps your thinking process, that's what you're looking at, and not a hindrance or a means of escape. You know, I'm thinking that at this stage, I'm spending a lot more time on my laptop because I'm just really enjoying getting into this. You know, and it really helps. The PDF add-in is really good. Yeah, I enjoy having that. It does streamline the workflow. But does anyone have this experience? I don't know if it's just me, but I find that now when I'm reading it, I am reading slower because I feel I need to have my laptop and Rome open and ready to put in notes, whereas previously I would just be skipping.
I
through
can
the-
relate po.
Okay, so I'm not alone on
You're
that.
not alone.
No, you're not. After the reading the first time the Smart Notes book, every book I'm reading now is like I get a couple of the pages per day because I'm typing in notes. I have a stack of books that I want to read and I'm not getting any progress done. But I really enjoy the process of reading that way. I've been an extremely fast reader all my life, but it has all disappeared. I don't know what I've been reading, and slowing down and taking notes and doing that has changed the way it's not even consuming things. It's probably working with things, with books, working with text, and not just in your head and then out somewhere again.
There's more
Are people-
interaction.
Sorry.
Go
Are
ahead,
people
Esther.
not finishing books as well? Are you finding you're not finishing books, that you're plumbing the essence and then not getting to the end, and or missing bits out in the middle? I'm just interested.
Some books are not worth finishing, I found, and it's okay to not finish them.
The
I
art of
agree
not
totally.
finishing things.
But do you think it's Rome
I used to
related?
feel this. Maybe, I don't know. I personally had a bit of the guilt for not finishing a book. I always felt compelled to see it through to the end, whether or not I was getting any value out of it. But I feel like the new me is just reevaluating the value of my time, and if I don't feel like I'm getting good return, I'm abandoning it.
Yeah. But
That's
only
perhaps
this
also
morning.
one thing that I do when I read mainly like published papers. And so sometimes I'm like at the first paragraph and I'm like, this doesn't give me any value. I already have all those things written here. I already have them somehow in my Rome graph. So I abandon the paper. I usually give it a new page and I tag it. So if ever I perhaps would stumble across it again, I know I've already read it. And I usually give it like a little rating, like, I know all of this doesn't give me any value, because it is fascinating how many things will reappear after 1 year only of using it. And so like, oh, and then you usually when you read published papers and at the end you find all the references and you start looking those up. And then when I usually type them first in my Rome graph, and perhaps I already read it. And so when I see, oh, this paper, I've read it and I jotted down only perhaps 3 points. But in this new paper, it gives like a completely new angle. So I would connect both papers to each other, but I don't get upset with myself that the first time I didn't write that down. I just write down what is important to me. And as soon as I'm thinking, okay, I don't need it, I don't write it down. It's just why it's rubbish in the worst case. So I just write down what I need in that moment. And I usually write down, oh, there is more about this. And so if I look something up in my Rome graph, I will find, oh, look, you can read that paper again and it will help you more. So it's perhaps in a book or in a paper, I just write down 2 points that were important in that moment to me. And I don't get upset with me that I didn't take, I don't know, pages and pages of notes. I think that's also at one point you start like, when it's a really important paper and I really want to dissect it completely, I sit down, and if it takes me 2 days, I take 2 days for it. It's no problem. But then the value that I invested in those 2 days will come back like 10,000 times. But if it's just like 2 or 3 little things, I jot them down and then I leave it at that. I do not read the complete paper and completely write everything down that I find in. Because this is debilitating if you have to read a lot of papers in like an academic setting.
Yeah,
that's an interesting approach, and I've found that I started reading books much more closely, and also stopped when I saw that the effort that I put in, I didn't get enough back, and so your approach is probably the step beyond that, is to find the nuggets and not worry about all the the things. So thanks for that. I'll incorporate that into. I don't have to take copious amounts of notes on everything I read. It's what I take away.
Can identify with that guilt thing, where you feel that if you don't process and come up with a shorter version of the book, then you feel that you've not done it justice. And this is something I speak to my daughter as well. She's in university now, and she takes a lot of pride in her notes. And so I sit down with her and also you got to interact with the notes. Just having the notes in itself is not going to help you if you're not interacting with the notes. And I think that's what I'm excited about. The Zettelkasten is learning how to interact more with the notes, and it doesn't have to be copious amounts of notes. It's like Andrea was saying, you get those nuggets, but if it provokes a response from you, if it gets you to think, and then from there you leap to other ideas and you generate new things, then it's so much better than having a whole stack of notes and not really interacting with it. And only this morning I was just thinking, because I see a lot of advertisements in social media about Blinkist, where they summarize the books for you. And I was wondering, in the context, because I was thinking about today's book club, about how whether these summarized versions of the books are actually helping people, because they represent what the person who's doing the summary thinks may be important. Whereas if you skim through the book yourself, you may pick up on something else, and that may provoke a different idea in you. And so, I was just thinking whether it's very useful to have this kind of a subscription, as opposed to just reading the books in the traditional way.
So I have two kids that are in university now doing their bachelors, and I've been trying to impose Rona on them, say, hey, look, this is how you can do things. And I see the way that they are learning at the bachelor's level. It's crazy. They learn in just a couple of weeks before their exams and then forget everything. There is no interaction. And the university system is not, I haven't seen it actually do what it's supposed to do. It's just mindlessly repeating facts and not getting the connections and so on. There's this wonderful tool and you could use it, but the system is not geared towards actually learning or exploring or making connections. It's about, here's a list of facts. We will test you in a multiple choice thing if you remember everything. It's oh.
Well,
Sad.
yes, Nettie, you may go first.
No, you go first.
Okay. So to answer Sir Boaz's question, since I am a 19-year-old undergrad, um, so regarding Blinkist, maybe it's a good place to preview a lot of books, because the cost of books at Amazon, that stuff. Maybe it's a good place to find interesting books and give a preview of them. Then you'll be able to go to the actual source and capture the entire context of the things that resonate with you. So maybe Blinkist as an app can help you find the books that are worth reading or taking notes about. So that's my response to that. Even though I don't use Blinkist at all, I'm I just I know, because I can kind of see the big picture of the books, because I would know where the argument is, then the evidences, and so on, because of
Yes.
my training in academic writing. Yeah, when I was in senior high, so I could kind of see the big picture of nonfiction mostly. For fiction, that's another story. I never read fiction. But for nonfiction, yeah, I have some degree of confidence regarding that.
I also came into that concept when I took Cortex Futuras course po. It touches upon the book How to Read a Book by Mortimer Adler. So it's called, what Wilbert is saying is it's called inspectional reading. So before you dive into the book, you'll get to know the gist or skimming of the contents of the book, the table of contents, the synopsis like in a movie, and then you'll get to decide whether you will do settle casting on that thing. And it's also discussed in the 4-hour work week, the low information diet, and then the art of non-finishing things. So if you guys read that book, it's super Timothy Ferris touch upon the low information diet, the importance of knowing what to intake and what to
Reject.
yes, that's the word. Yes. So just to say po.
Thanks.
for
That's good to know.
So for a quick time check, we have about 14 minutes left. This has been a very fruitful conversation. As you all know, this is probably my first live session at all from my history of book club. So, and I'm not as experienced. Actually, we, Nettie and I, are not that experienced regarding, well, comparing to Bo, which is another animal in of itself. So, yeah, I don't know how he does this, and for some reason, he still manages to stay up late and exert the same energy, and I just can't. It's just, it's just the uh, weird and very cool thing about this community. So,
So I'm not a newbie in here. I've been attending live sessions and reading rooms even if it's not in line with my time zone. I really enjoy that. Even it's in the middle of dawn in our country. I just want to converse with Serbo, Ma'am Samantha, the alumni. They're so brilliant. Oh my gosh. So yeah, when I first tried it, I can't be absent on that thing. So yeah, that's the reason why I stayed, even if it's a sacrifice for me.
goodbye, Surgeons. Let us all say goodbye to Surgeons.
Thank
Goodbye.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah, I really appreciate you
Yes.
guys setting this up. It really, it's a good way to connect because getting up at 4:30 in the morning was a little bit difficult. Because I gotta send my son to school, so by about 6 I'm out of the house, 6:15, and so it's a bit tough to do that. So when I got the notice that it's going to be at this time of the day, I was like, yes, because you get to interact with people, and I think one of the strengths of Rome is the community because there's so much support, there's so much people who are doing things for free, right? And just doing it for the community, I think it's amazing, and so nice to have met you all, and look forward to the next one, and hearing your perspectives is really more than the book itself, is to hear your perspectives, and that also strikes a chord with me, so that really appreciate. Thank you so much, everyone.
Um, I guess we can end here, like a bit earlier. Is that all right with you guys?
Yeah.
All right. Uh, well,
See you
I have
next week
been,
po.
yeah, I have been recording this. Okay, so I did not screw up. Uh, so I'll see you guys.
Yep.
Goodbye.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so
Thank
much.
you.
so
Bye,
much.
everybody.
Thank you
Bye.
so
Navy,
much.
thank you, Wilbert.
Thank you so
Bye,
much.
all.
See you.
Bye,
Bye, everyone.
everyone.